The air in the whispering barrows is a weight in your lungs, heavy with the scent of 10,000 forgotten rains and the slow, sweet decay of yew wood. It's a place of held breaths and silent histories. Your boots make no sound on the thick, viridian moss that smothers the leaning mausoleums, their stone shoulders slumped under the burden of ages. Above, the branches of ancient trees interlace into a perpetual twilight, a stained glass ceiling of black wood, and the occasional, sorrowful glimpse of a bruised purple sky. You trace the line of a carving on a crypt door, a stylized wave, a symbol of the Obsidian Sea, and the dew-kissed granite feels slick and cold beneath your fingertips, like the skin of a drowned god. This is your penance, your self-imposed exile, a place to forget the shriek of wind, the splintering of a mast, the cold, accusatory stare in Alara's eyes as the waves took her. You are, or were, an Obsidian Cartographer, a mapper of the unmapped, a reader of currents and teller of tides. But the last expedition broke you. It took your crew, your ship, and your nerve, leaving you with nothing but a tremor in your hands and the hollow echo of failure. You clutch the object in your pocket, its familiar smoothness a small anchor in the drifting sea of your thoughts. It's a stone, perfectly round, blacker than a starless night. Your secret, an uncatalogued artifact you pulled from a deep-sea trench, a thing that hums with a silent, resonant energy near great geological pressures. Here, among the deep-rooted stones of the barrows, it feels almost alive, a low thrum against your thigh that mimics the anxious beat of your own heart. A sound snaps you from your reverie, not the sigh of the wind or the drip of water, but a child's laugh, sharp and clear as shattered crystal. It's a sound so alien in this place of solemnity that it feels like a sacrilege. You move toward it, your hesitation a familiar, cloying companion. Past a crumbling angel with a moss-eaten face, you see them. A young woman, her face etched with a weariness that belies her years, trying to coax a small boy away from a sunken hollow where the air itself seems to shimmer. "Lion, come away from there," she pleads, her voice thin. "It's not safe." The boy, no older than 5, giggles again and takes another step toward the hollow. And you see it. The air is not just shimmering, it's swirling, an opalescent mist coiling like a serpent in the depression. Its colors shift from mother of pearl to the pale blue of a winter dawn. A Chrono-Mist well, condensed causality, the lore calls it. A place where time has pooled and become unstable. You know the stories. A step inside could strip a man of his years, leaving a babe crying in his place, or pile them on until his bones turned to dust on the wind. It is a place of infinite possibility and almost certain ruin. "Get him away from there," you call out, your voice a rusty hinge. The words feel foreign in your throat. The woman turns, startled. Her eyes widen at your appearance, the worn leathers, the sea salt stiffness of your coat, the map case still slung over your shoulder like a vestigial limb. But her fear is quickly replaced by the greater terror for her son. "He won't listen," she cries, taking a hesitant step forward. "Lion," the boy turns, his face alight with innocent curiosity and stumbles. He falls forward, his small hands outstretched, plunging into the edge of the swirling mist. The world seems to slow. Your feet are lead. The memory flashes, hot and searing. The deck of the Searender lurching, Alara's hand slipping from yours, your own body frozen in a paralysis of shock and indecision. You hesitated. The words are a brand on your soul. You watched her fall. Not again. The thought is a physical blow, shattering the ice in your veins. You are moving before you are aware of it, covering the dozen yards in a desperate sprint. You lunge, ignoring the woman's scream, and catch the boy's ankle just as his torso is swallowed by the pearlescent fog. You pull. It's like pulling a root from ancient earth. There is a resistance, a strange, temporal suction. The air around your arm grows cold, then hot. For a dizzying second, you see not the boy, but a man with a grizzled beard and lion's eyes, staring back at you with a look of profound confusion. Then the image dissolves, and you see a babe, its face crumpled and crying. You grit your teeth and heave, the muscles in your back screaming. With a sound like tearing silk, the boy comes free. He tumbles onto the moss beside you, his body convulsing. You scramble back, dragging him with you, your heart hammering against your ribs. The woman rushes forward, gathering him into her arms. Lion, oh spirit's lion, are you all right? The boy is still a boy, his face smudged with dirt, his eyes wide and vacant. But his hair at the temples is shot through with threads of silver. And on the back of his hand, the skin is wrinkled, liver-spotted, the hand of an old man. You push yourself to your feet, your body trembling. As you look back at the Chrono-Mist, it swirls with a new intensity. And in its depths, an image coalesces. It is not the past, but a vision of what is to come. You see the Obsidian Sea, the place you once called home, but it is not the deep, predictable blue-black you charted. It is boiling, churning with an impossible, furious energy. From its abyssal depths, a mountain is rising. No, not a mountain. An eye the size of a city, opening slowly, its iris a galaxy of malevolent light. The water around it turns to steam. The vision is so clear, so real, you can feel the heat on your face. You see shores cracking, cities falling into the newly formed chasms, the world ending in fire and water. The vision shatters, leaving you gasping, the scent of ozone sharp in your nostrils. The stone in your pocket is vibrating with a frantic, painful intensity, a silent alarm against the fabric of your trousers. You understand, with a chilling certainty that sinks deeper than any sounding line, that this was not a random event. The Chrono-Well, the waking titans of the slumber wars that reshape the continents, this vision of the sea, they are all connected. Symptoms of the same world-spanning sickness. Your goal had been to map the Obsidian Sea, a quiet, academic pursuit to reclaim your own broken honor. But the mist has shown you that goal is no longer enough. Mapping it is a fool's errand if the sea itself is destined to boil away into nothing. You have to understand why. You have to chart not just the currents of the water, but the currents of this impending doom. The woman is weeping, cradling her son, whose eyes are slowly regaining their focus. "What have you done?" she whispers, looking at his aged hand, not with gratitude, but with horror. You have no answer for her. You only know that your exile is over. The barrows can no longer hold you. The sea is calling, not with the promise of discovery, but with the threat of oblivion. And this time, you cannot allow yourself to hesitate. The name Willow Copper is a whisper, a myth among navigators and scholars. The glitch hunter. They say she doesn't live anywhere, but everywhere. That she reads the subtle errors in the world's design, a river that flows uphill for a mile, a constellation that appears out of season, a chrono-mist well bubbling up in a quiet cemetery. You've never met her, but you know how to leave a message. You travel to the old orrery at Greycliff, a massive, clockwork model of the heavens left by a forgotten civilization. Its brass rings are green with verdigris, its gears locked by rust. At its heart, you place a lodestone you've carried for years, oriented towards the ever-constant northern star. Beside it, you lay out a star chart, but not of the sky. You draw the swirling pattern you saw in the Chrono-Mist, the terrible eye at its center. It is a question, a plea, and a warning, all in one. A message into the world's circuitry. For 3 days, you wait. You camp among the standing stones that surround the orrery, eating dried rations and watching the slow crawl of the real stars across the sky. The slick, dew-kissed granite of the stones is a constant, familiar texture under your hands as you climb them for a better view of the horizon. You think about the boy lion, about the fragments of a life he experienced in moments, the silver in his hair, a testament to a future he hasn't earned. Your intervention saved him from being unwritten, but it marked him all the same. Your actions always have a cost, a lesson the sea taught you in the cruelest way possible. On the 3rd night, a reply appears. It's not a letter, not a person. As the twin moons rise, their silver light spills across the face of the orrery. The rust-caked gears begin to grind. With a sound like groaning mountains, the great brass rings begin to turn, moving for the first time in centuries. They align not to map the heavens, but to project a pattern of shadows on the ground before you. The shadows form words. System anomaly detected. Cascade failure imminent. The dreamer SDIRS. Diagnostics required. Beneath the words, a new image forms in the moving shadows. It is a compass, not a magnetic one, but something more intricate. Its needle is a sliver of captured light. SDARFALL compass locates points of architectural stress. Find it. It is the key. Beware the shepherds. They mistake the symptom for the cure. The gears groan to a halt. The message dissolves back into meaningless shadow. The dreamer stirs. The words echo the feeling you had looking into the well, that the world itself is a living, sleeping thing, and its nightmares are becoming real. Willow Copper has confirmed your fears and given you a new, impossible task. The Starfall Compass, a celestial artifact of legend, said to be able to guide its user to places where the fabric of reality is thin. You know where the legends place it. In the sunken library of Eridor, a ruin perched on the cliffs, overlooking the very edge of the Obsidian Sea. A place now claimed by a fervent, militant sect who call themselves the Shepherds of Silence. They are led by a zealot, a rust-scarred shepherd named Dorothy Ocher. They believe the waking titans are a divine punishment for the hubris of mankind, for delving too deep, for learning too much. They preach a return to ignorance and silence, a placation of the sleeping gods through appeasement. To them, a cartographer like you is the highest form of heretic, and an artifact that reveals the world's secrets, like the starfall compass, is an object to be buried, not used. Willow's warning rings in your mind. They mistake the symptom for the cure. They would see the world's sickness and demand the patient stop breathing. You pack your meager belongings. The path is clear, and it is a collision course. To get the compass, you must go through Dorothy Ocher and her shepherds. To understand the sea's boiling rage, you must face the very zealots who would forbid such knowledge. You feel a tremor of the old fear, the familiar ghost of hesitation whispering at the edge of your hearing. You clench your fists. The memory of Alara's falling form a spur to your resolve. This isn't just about mapping anymore. This is about diagnostics. And you are the only one who seems to be reading the charts. The journey to the coast is a pilgrimage through a wounded land. You cross plains newly bisected by a chasm 50 miles long, the result of a titan shifting in its sleep a year ago. You see entire villages abandoned, their inhabitants fleeing the seismic tremors that presage a new awakening. The Titans' slumber wars are not a distant conflict. They are the slow, grinding apocalypse that forms the very ground beneath your feet. The air is thick with unease, and the faces of the people you meet are tight with a desperate, fearful piety. Dorothy Ocher's message finds fertile ground here. It's easier to blame heretics than to accept that the gods you worship might crush you in their sleep without even noticing. The sunken library is not truly sunken, but it seems to be trying. Half the structure has already crumbled into the churning waters of the Obsidian Sea below. What remains clings to the cliff face like a barnacle, its stone weathered and scarred by salt spray. As you approach, you see the shepherds. They move with a quiet, unnerving purpose, their robes the color of dried blood and rust. They carry no weapons, save for heavy iron staffs, which they use to rhythmically strike the ground as they walk, a constant, percussive prayer for the earth to remain still. You watch them for a full day from a rocky outcrop, charting their patrols, their rituals. They are disciplined. In their center, moving among them like a queen, is a woman whose presence is an anchor of sheer force. Her hair is cropped short. Her face is a mask of severe conviction, and a network of fine, rust-colored scars covers the left side of her face and neck, disappearing beneath her robes. Dorothy Ocher. You see her stand at the cliff's edge, her arms outstretched, not in worship, but as if trying to physically hold the world together through sheer will. Her faith is not a comfort, it is a weapon. Your skills are in quiet infiltration, not open conflict. Under the cover of a moonless night, you begin your descent. The cliff face is treacherous, the slick, dew-kissed granite a constant threat. Your fingers, trained to hold a silver point pen with delicate precision, are now crammed into crevices, clinging to life. The roar of the waves below is a hungry sound, Every handhold is a choice, every foothold a commitment. The old hesitation tries to surface, whispering of the fall, of the cold, final embrace of the water. You force it down, focusing on the texture of the rock, the rhythm of your own breathing. You find an entry point through a collapsed archway, a wound in the library's side that opens directly to the sea. You slip inside, a ghost in the house of silence. The air within is thick with the smell of wet paper and brine. Moonlight filters through high, shattered windows, illuminating vast, cavernous halls. The shelves are empty, the books and scrolls long ago turned to pulp by the damp, or more likely, burned by the shepherds in their crusade against knowledge. Your destination is the astralarium, the central chamber where the starfall compass was said to be housed. You move through the darkened halls, your footfalls silenced by the constant, dull roar of the sea. The stone in your pocket hums gently, a warm, reassuring presence. It seems to react to the library's proximity to the deep abyssal trench just offshore. You hear chanting. It's a low, monotonous drone, the words indistinct. You follow the sound and find yourself on a high gallery overlooking the astralarium. Below, a dozen shepherds are kneeling in a circle. In the center, on a raised dais, sits the compass. It is exactly as the shadows depicted it. Its casing is a dark, swirling meteoric iron, and even from this distance, you can see the faint, warm glow it emits. Its needle, a shard of what looks like pure, solidified light, quivers and spins, not towards north, but towards a point in the stardusted sky visible through the shattered dome above. Dorothy Oker stands before it, her back to you. She is not chanting. She is perfectly still, watching the needles dance. There's no way to get to it without being seen. You scan the room, your cartographer's mind assessing angles and trajectories. A massive, precariously balanced statue of a long-dead scholar stands in an alcove near the dais. A distraction. It's a risk. A terrible, foolish risk. The kind of risk you would have agonized over for hours until the opportunity was lost. You don't have hours. You find a loose stone on the balustrade. You weigh it in your hand. You take a breath. And you throw it. It soars in a perfect arc, striking the statue high on the shoulder. For a heart-stopping second, nothing happens. Then, with a groan of stressed stone, the statue begins to tilt. It crashes to the floor with a sound like a thunderclap, shattering into 1,000 pieces. The shepherds cry out in alarm, their chanting broken. They scramble to their feet, turning towards the sound. Dorothy Oker whirls around, her eyes, hard and bright as polished obsidian, scanning the darkness. For a moment, you think she sees you, that her gaze cuts right through the shadows to pin you to the wall. But her attention, and that of her followers, is on the shattered statue. It's the only chance you will get. You vault over the balustrade, dropping silently to the floor below. You land in a crouch, your muscles screaming in protest, and sprint for the dais. The 30 feet feel like a mile. The air is thick with the shepherd's confusion. You leap onto the dais, your hand closing around the starfall compass. It's warm, impossibly, wonderfully warm, like holding a small, sleeping animal. A faint, rhythmic pulse beats from it into your palm, a steady, reassuring heartbeat. The needle of light spins wildly, then settles, pointing not at the sky, but directly at you. Or rather, at the stone in your pocket. Heretic, the cry comes from Dorothy. She has seen you. Her face is a terrifying mask of righteous fury. The shepherds turn, their surprise morphing into rage. You don't have time to think. You leap from the other side of the dais and run, clutching the compass to your chest. You race back the way you came, the shouts of the shepherds echoing behind you in the ruined halls. You can hear the heavy, rhythmic thud of their iron staffs on the stone, a sound like the footfalls of an angry giant. You scramble out through the archway and onto the cliff face. There is no time for a careful descent. You half climb, half slide down the treacherous rock, the sharp edges tearing at your clothes and skin. You risk a glance back. Dorothy Oker is standing in the archway, bathed in the pale moonlight. She is not shouting. She is not pursuing. She is simply watching you, her expression one of cold, absolute certainty. It's not the look of someone who has been defeated. It's the look of someone who has just confirmed a dire prophecy. You reach the shoreline and don't stop, plunging into the surf and swimming out to the small skiff you had hidden in a cove. As you row away, your muscles burning, the sunken library recedes into the darkness. But you can feel her gaze on you, a physical weight on your back. You have the compass. You have the key. But you have also made an enemy of a woman who believes you are the plague, and that she is the only cure. The Obsidian Sea awaits, and with it, answers. But you know, with a cold knot of dread in your stomach, that you are not the only one sailing toward its boiling heart. The starfall compass is a strange and beautiful thing. During the day, its needle of light is dormant, but its meteoric casing remains perpetually warm against your palm. At night, under the open sky, it comes alive. The needle doesn't point, it sings, vibrating with a low hum and tracing lines of light that correspond with the star lanes above. It guides you not to a physical destination, but along paths of cosmic significance, to places where the world is thin. Following its guidance feels less like navigation and more like tracing a divine secret. Your goal is the Obsidian Sea, but the compass leads you on a winding, inland path. It seems to be pulling you towards a convergence, a place where its power will be at its peak. You need a crew. You cannot do this alone, a truth cemented by the scars on your back from your flight from the library. And more than that, you need a vessel, a ship capable of sailing the increasingly volatile waters of the Great Sea. You make for Port Damali, a notorious haven for freethinkers, smugglers, and those who have fallen out of favor with the rising tide of shepherd dogma. It is a city clinging to the edge of the world, reeking of salt, tar, and defiant freedom. And it is there you find him, Kale. His face is thinner, etched with lines that weren't there before, but his eyes are the same, a steady, clear gray. He was your first mate on the Sea Render, the one who helped you pull the bodies from the water after the rogue wave hit. You survived together, clinging to the wreckage for 4 days before being rescued. You also fell apart together in the aftermath, the shared trauma a chasm between you. You find him mending nets on the docks, his hands moving with an old, familiar competence. Kale, you say. He looks up, and for a moment his face is a blank wall. Then recognition dawns, followed by a storm of more complex emotions. Pain, anger, and something else, something that looks like pity. Captain, he says, the title a ghost on his tongue. He doesn't get up. I have a new ship, you lie. A new expedition. I need a first mate. He gives a short, bitter laugh. Do you now? And what's the goal this time? Charting the bottom of your ale mug. You disappeared, you know. Vanished. I thought you'd finally let the sea take the rest of you. The words are a slap, but you deserve them. I was recovering in the barrows, but I found something, Kale, a purpose. You sit on the dock beside him, the scent of fish and brine thick around you. You tell him everything about the Chrono-Mist, the vision of the boiling sea, the starfall compass pulsing gently in your satchel. You tell him about Willow Copper's message, the theory of a system anomaly. You leave out only one detail, the uncatalogued stone in your pocket. Some secrets are too deep to share. As you speak, you watch his face. You see his skepticism war with the memory of the man you once were, the meticulous, brilliant cartographer who could read the sea like a book. Titans, chrono-wells, a magic compass. He shakes his head, but his eyes are fixed on your satchel. You always were a poet, Captain, chasing stories. This one is real, Kale. The world is coming apart. The slumber wars are just the beginning. This isn't about glory or discovery. It's about survival. You show him the compass. You let him hold it. He feels its unnatural warmth, sees the faint, dormant light of the needle. His tough, cynical exterior begins to crack. He, too, has seen the wounded land, the frightened refugees. He knows things are wrong. Even if I believed you, he says, handing it back carefully, where would you get a ship and a crew? No one will sail with you. Not after the sea render. They'll say you're cursed. They'll sail for pay, you counter. And they'll sail for a captain who has a celestial map. We won't be sailing blind. It takes 2 days of persuasion, of appealing to the bond forged in the crucible of shared disaster. In the end, he agrees. He is a man adrift, and you are offering him not just a destination, but a reason. With Kale's reputation as a steady hand on board, you manage to gather a small, desperate crew and charter a vessel. She's not the sea render, but she's sturdy. A deep-hulled cog named the Unmoored. As you prepare to depart, the stress of the coming voyage begins to wear on you. The nights are long and filled with a familiar dread. And then the memory comes for you. The one you have buried deeper than any other. The creative seed of your flaw, recontextualizing everything. You are on the deck of the Sea Render, the sky a calm, indifferent blue. The sounding line has just been pulled up from a record-breaking depth in the Obsidian Sea's central trench. And coiled around the lead weight is not kelp or seaweed, but a strange, black, perfectly round stone, your artifact. As you pry it free, it hums in your hand, and a wave of knowledge floods your mind. Not images or words, but pure, raw understanding. The sea is not water. It is a mind, a vast, dreaming consciousness, the titan of all titans. And your presence, your sounding lines and charts, are a pinprick on its sleeping brain, an irritation. Alara is beside you. What is it? What did you find? You look at her, at the eager, brilliant spark in her eyes. She is a scientist, a seeker of truth. And you hold in your hand a truth so monstrous it could shatter her world. You see the path forward, presenting the evidence, the years of ridicule from the Cartographers Guild, the accusations of madness. Your career, your reputation ruined. You are an Obsidian Cartographer. You map what is real, what is measurable, not the dreams of sleeping gods. And so you hesitate, you lie. Just a strange rock, you say, slipping it into your pocket. Nothing. The lie is a stone in your own throat, a betrayal of your shared purpose, a betrayal of her. 2 days later, the rogue wave rises from a placid sea. It is not a wave. It is a flex of muscle, a twitch in a slumbering giant's limb, irritated by your probing. It rises impossibly high, a liquid mountain intent on erasing you. And as Alara slips from your grasp, you see in her eyes not fear, but accusation. She knows you lied. She knows you hid something. And that knowledge, that final, silent judgment, is what haunts you more than the water. You wake up in your cramped cabin on the unmoored, gasping, the phantom feel of Alara's hand slipping from yours still tingling on your skin. The flashback clarifies everything. Your hesitation wasn't just a moment of fear. It was the culmination of a deep, professional cowardice. Your obsession with mapping the sea isn't just about reclaiming honor. It's a desperate, frantic attempt to prove that the terrifying truth you discovered was real. It's an apology to a ghost, an atonement. The revelation settles in your bones, a cold, hard weight. But it also brings a sliver of clarity. You are not just running from your failure, you are running toward a truth you were once too afraid to accept. With a new, somber resolve, you set your course. The starfall compass guides you out of Port Damali, not west into the open sea, but south, along the treacherous, Titan-scarred coast. The journey is fraught. You navigate around new peninsulas of jagged rock that didn't exist on any chart, the result of a recent awakening. You see the colossal, sleeping forms of Titans on the horizon, their slow, stony breaths causing the very air to shimmer. They are like living mountain ranges, their skin of rock and forest rising, and falling in a rhythm that spans decades. Kale is a rock, his steady presence a balm to the crew's frayed nerves. He watches you, his gaze questioning. He can see the change in you. The desperate urgency is now tempered by a grim focus. He doesn't ask. He knows you'll tell him when you're ready. After a week of sailing, the compass leads you to a string of desolate, volcanic islands. The needle of light points unwaveringly towards the largest, a grim, smoking peak named Cinderfall. According to the old charts, it should be dormant. It is not. A thin plume of black smoke rises from its caldera, a dark finger pointing at the sky. No sane captain would go near that, Kale says, standing beside you at the helm. The currents will be a nightmare. The water will be close to boiling. The compass is leading us there, you reply, your hand resting on the warm casing. Its pulse is faster now, more insistent. It's a point of architectural stress, as Willow put it. We have to see why. Your secret stone is also reacting. It's vibrating so intensely in your pocket that it feels like a trapped bird, beating its wings against your leg. As you draw closer, you understand Kale's concern. The sea around Cinderfall is a churning chaos of whirlpools and steam vents. Navigating it requires every bit of your old skill. You read the water, calling out orders, your voice crisp and sure. For the first time since the sea render went down, you feel like a captain again. The crew responds, their fear eclipsed by their trust in your command. You find a sheltered cove on the lee side of the island and drop anchor. The plan is to take a small party, including Kale, and ascend the volcano to its crater. The compass indicates the focal point is at the very summit. The ascent is grueling. The volcanic rock is sharp and loose underfoot. The air grows hot and thick with sulfur. The slickness here is not of dew, but of greasy chemical condensation that makes every handhold a gamble. Halfway up, the ground begins to tremble. A deep, resonant groaning sound echoes from within the mountain. "Captain, this is madness," one of the crewmen gasps, his face pale. You look at Kale. His jaw is set, his eyes on you, waiting for your call. This is it, a critical juncture, a moment of danger and uncertainty. The memory of your fatal hesitation on the Sea Render's deck screams at you to turn back, to play it safe. Your hand trembles. You see it in Kale's eyes, a flicker of doubt. He's seeing the same ghost you are, the ghost of the captain who froze. You clench your trembling hand into a fist. "We go on," you say, your voice steadier than you feel. "The shaking is why we're here. We need to see what's causing it." You push on, the groaning from the earth growing louder. As you reach the crater's rim, the sight steals the breath from your lungs. The caldera is not filled with lava. It's a vast, open wound in the earth, and at its center, something is moving. It is a colossal, crystalline structure, like a geode the size of a cathedral, pulsing with a soft, internal light. The light pulses in time with the groaning, and with each pulse, the cracks on its surface widen. It is hatching. "By the tides," Kale whispers, his face a mask of awe and terror. It's a titan, a new one being born. Before you can process this, a voice rings out from across the crater. "Behold the cost of your sacrilege," you whirl around. On the opposite side of the rim stands Dorothy Ochre and a score of her shepherds of silence. They must have followed you, their ship faster or their path more direct. Her face is grim, her eyes burning with a terrible, vindicated fire. She points a finger at you, her voice ringing with condemnation. You and your accursed compass have hastened the awakening. You have disturbed its slumber. This birth is on your hands, heretic. The ground shakes violently. A massive fissure splinters across the crater floor. The crystalline egg cracks open with a sound of grinding continents. Kale grabs your arm. "We have to go, now." He's right. But your flaw, your cursed hesitation, chooses this moment to reassert itself. You are paralyzed, caught between the terrifying miracle in the crater and the hateful certainty in Dorothy's eyes. What if she's right? What if your presence here, your diagnostics, are making things worse? The doubt is a poison, freezing your limbs. "Captain," Kale yells, his voice strained with panic. And then the betrayal. It's not violent, it's quiet, and 1,000 times more painful. He doesn't shove you or strike you. He simply lets go of your arm. "I'm sorry, Captain," he says, his voice flat and dead. "She's right. This is the path of madness. We followed you once before, to the bottom of the sea." He turns his back on you. "I won't do it again." He signals to the 2 other crewmen who came with you. Their faces are masks of fear. They look at you, then at the hatching Titan, then back at Kale. They choose him. They choose survival. They turn and begin scrambling back down the mountain. But Kale does one last thing. He looks across the crater at Dorothy Oker and gives a short, sharp nod, a signal, an affirmation. He has not just abandoned you, he has delivered you. The understanding hits you like a physical blow. He was never convinced. He was playing a part. He blamed you for the surrender, for the deaths, for everything. And he found a new faith in the certainty of Dorothy Oker's dogma. The rust-scarred shepherd offered him a simpler answer. It was not a freak accident, it was heresy. Your heresy. And his betrayal is his atonement. The shepherds begin to move around the crater rim, their iron staffs thudding on the rock, closing in on you. You are alone. Your crew gone, your only friend revealed as your enemy. The ground beneath your feet is coming apart. And in the crater, a newborn god of rock and fire is taking its first world-shattering breath. Your hesitation has cost you everything. Again, the roar of the newborn Titan is the sound of the world tearing. The crater rim collapses beneath you, and you fall, not into lava, but onto a newly formed ledge of cooling rock, the impact jarring every bone in your body. Above, the silhouettes of Dorothy's shepherds stand against the smoke-choked sky. They make no move to pursue. They leave you for dead, a sacrifice to the angry earth. You lie there, the heat baking you, the sulfurous air scorching your lungs. Despair is a thick, syrupy thing in your throat. Kale's betrayal is a wound far deeper than any cut or bruise. He didn't just leave you, he confirmed your deepest fear, that you are a curse, a bringer of ruin. The ghost of Alara whispers in your ear, "I told you so." The starfall compass has fallen from your satchel, its warm light dimmed by the overwhelming heat. But the artifact in your pocket, the lodestone of echoes, is a different story. It's not just vibrating anymore, it's pulsing with a fierce, rhythmic heat, a counterbeat to the Titan's rage. You pull it out. The perfectly black, smooth surface is no longer inert. Faint, silvery lines are moving within it, like constellations being drawn and erased in an endless cycle. They are forming a map of stress and pressure, of faults and fissures within the volcano. It is showing you a way out. The stone saved your life once, when it led you to this truth about the dreaming sea. You chose to ignore it then, and that choice cost you Alara. You will not make the same mistake. Pushing past the pain, the grief, the choking self-pity, you get to your feet. You hold the lodestone, its internal map your only guide, and stumble into a newly opened fissure, a crack in the mountain's flank. The journey through the volcano's guts is a fever dream. You crawl through steam-choked lava tubes, the rock around you groaning and shifting. The lodestone is your only light, its shifting patterns guiding you through the labyrinth, away from collapsing passages and pockets of poison gas. It is a tool of pure geology, and you, a cartographer, understand its language. It feels as though the stone is an extension of your own senses, allowing you to read the rock the way you once read the waves. You emerge days later at the base of the island, filthy, burned, and dehydrated, but alive. The unmoored is gone. Of course it is. Kale has taken it, along with the compass. You have nothing but the clothes on your back and the 2 artifacts that started this all. You are stranded. For weeks, you survive. You learn the grim cartography of a castaway, mapping sources of fresh water, hunting the strange, rock-shelled crabs that scuttle along the black sand beaches. The solitude is both a punishment and a crucible. There are no distractions from your own failings. You are forced to confront the memory of Alara, not as a source of guilt, but as a fact. You hesitated, you lied, you failed. You replay Kale's betrayal, not with anger, but with a cold, analytical eye. You see the fear in his face, the desperate need for an answer, for a faith to cling to after the chaos of the wreck. You gave him none. You gave him only secrets and obsession. Dorothy Oker gave him certainty. You cannot hate him for choosing it. Your flaw is not just hesitation at critical junctures. It's a deeper, more profound failure to connect, to trust. Your secrecy, born of fear of ridicule, created the very isolation that now condemns you. One night, sitting by a pathetic fire of driftwood, you try to contact Willow Copper again. You have no orrery, no lodestone to place. You have only the beach. With a piece of charred wood, you draw in the sand. You draw the hatching Titan. You draw the ship sailing away. And you draw the starfall compass with a question mark beside it. You pour all of your desperation, your plea for guidance, into the drawing, and then you let the tide wash it away. A message in a bottle sent to the world itself. You don't expect a reply. But a week later, something washes ashore. It's a glass bottle sealed with wax. Inside, a single rolled-up parchment. Willow's response. They have the diagnostic tool, but they cannot read the data. They will interpret it as a weapon. The dreamer is not sick, it is infected. A dissonance. A thought that does not belong. The Titans are the fever, the immune response. DOROTHYS, cure, a ritual of lulling, is a sedative. It will quiet the fever but allow the infection to fester. It will kill the patient. The compass will lead them to the nexus of the dissonance, the heart of the Obsidian Sea. You must get there first. You are the only one who knows the true nature of the dreamer. You are the cartographer of its mind. Beneath the words is a map of the ocean currents for the next month. A single, improbable path, a convergence of tides and winds that could carry a small raft from your island prison to the shores of the mainland. It is a sliver of a chance, a glitch in the system in your favor. The message changes everything. The world isn't ending by accident. It's being attacked. The Titans aren't the problem. They are the solution, clumsy and catastrophic as it might be. Dorothy is not evil. She is tragically, apocalyptically wrong. Her quest for atonement will doom the very world she is trying to save. You build the raft. You work with a singular, burning focus you haven't felt in years. Your despair is burned away by the heat of purpose. You are no longer mapping the world. You are trying to save it. The journey on the raft is a new kind of hell. You are at the mercy of the wind and waves, a tiny speck on the vast, dreaming skin of the sea titan. But Willow's map holds true. The currents carry you. You learn to read the subtle shifts in the water, the taste of the air, with a new intimacy. You are no longer an observer, charting from a deck high above. You are a part of it. The lodestone of echoes stays warm in your pocket, its internal map of the seafloor, a silent companion. You make landfall on a desolate stretch of coast, 100 miles south of any port. You are gaunt, weathered, but you are not broken. You have been stripped of everything: your ship, your crew, your reputation, your self-deception. All that is left is the core of you, a cartographer who holds the key to the world's most terrifying secret. You have to get the compass back. You have to get to the heart of the Obsidian Sea. You know, with the unerring instinct of a navigator, that Dorothy will be heading for the one place powerful enough to perform her great ritual. The Abyssal Maw, a circular sea in the center of the Obsidian Sea, where the water is a perpetual whirlpool, said to be a place where the veil between worlds is thinnest. A place no ship has ever returned from. It is a race to the end of the world, and your opponent has a massive head start. And you have nothing but 2 feet and a will of forged steel. Your journey overland is a desperate trek. You avoid towns, knowing the shepherds will be looking for you. You live off the land, a ghost moving through a world that is increasingly afraid of ghosts. You see the signs of Dorothy's passing. Villages where her shepherds have preached, leaving behind a new, fervent quiet. Fields left fallow as farmers spend their days in prayer. The world is holding its breath, waiting for a salvation that will be its doom. You finally reach the port city of Last Landing, the final outpost before the horrors of the Abyssal Maw. And there, in the harbor, you see it, the unmoored. It's being refitted, its hull reinforced with iron plates. They are preparing for the final journey. You find Cale in a dockside tavern. He is drinking alone, his face pale and drawn. The certainty he had on the volcano is gone, replaced by a deep, haunted weariness. You slide into the booth opposite him. He looks up, and his eyes widen in shock. He looks as though he's seen a ghost. "You're alive," he whispers. "No thanks to you," you say, your voice level, devoid of the anger you thought you'd feel. There is only a great, weary sadness. "You have the compass." He nods, not meeting your eyes. "We sail on the morning tide, for the Maw." The shepherd, she says, we can quiet the titans, put the world back to sleep, end the fear. "She's wrong, Cale," you say, leaning forward, your voice low and intense. "It's not a sickness from within. It's an infection from without, a dissonance. Her ritual will silence the world's defenses, but it will let the disease consume everything. The sea told me this, Cale, the first time, on the render. I was just too afraid to listen." You tell him the truth, the full, unvarnished truth you hid from Alara. You tell him about the sea being a dreaming mind, a sleeping titan. You tell him about your fear, your lie, your cowardice. You lay your soul bare on the sticky tavern table. He listens, his expression shifting from shock to confusion, and finally to a dawning horror. The simple, clean narrative Dorothy gave him is beginning to fray. She said you were a blasphemer," he stammers. that your knowledge was a plague. The only plague is ignorance, Kale. Her faith is a blindfold. I am asking you to take it off. You reach into your pocket and place the lodestone of echoes on the table between you. Its surface is swirling with complex silver patterns, a map of the deep, unseen world. This is my compass. It reads the truth of the rock and the water. The starfall compass reads the truth of the sky and the energy. We need both. They are two halves of the same map, a map to the infection source. Kale stares at the stone, mesmerized. He looks at you, his eyes filled with a terrible, tearing conflict. His betrayal was an act of faith, an attempt to atone for following you to ruin once before. Now you are telling him his atonement itself is the true path to damnation. What do you want from me? He asks, his voice barely a whisper. Help me get on that ship, you say. Help me get that compass back. Help me show her the truth before she puts a sedative-laced pillow over the face of the world. The tavern door opens, and two shepherds in their rust-colored robes step inside. They scan the room, their eyes cold and watchful. Kale tenses. This is it. Another critical juncture. Another choice. His new faith or the ghost of his old loyalty. He looks at the shepherds, then at the swirling map inside the lodestone, then at you. His decision will not just seal your fate. It will seal the fate of the world. Kale's gaze flicks between you and the shepherds. The muscles in his jaw work, a silent, furious debate playing out across his face. He slides a hand over the lodestone, his calloused fingers tracing its impossible smoothness. He doesn't look at you when he speaks, his voice so low you can barely hear it over the tavern's din. The aft storage locker below the galley, he murmurs. The lock is rusted. A firm kick will break it. Be there an hour before dawn. Don't be seen. He pushes the lodestone back towards you and stands up, his movements stiff. He walks over to the two shepherds, says something brief and dismissive, and then all three of them leave. He didn't look back. It's not forgiveness. It's not redemption. It's a chance. And it's all you have. You slip out of the tavern and melt into the labyrinthine alleys of Last Landing. An hour before dawn, under a sky the color of a fresh bruise, you are there. The aft storage locker smells of brine and rotting rope. As Kale promised, the lock gives way with a single, well-placed kick. You slide into the cramped, stifling darkness and weight. The ship lurches as it leaves the dock. The journey to the abyssal maw has begun. For 2 days, you remain in the locker, subsisting on a few hard biscuits and a skin of water, listening to the muffled sounds of the crew and the constant creak and groan of the ship. In the darkness, you have nothing but your thoughts and the warm, pulsing presence of the lodestone. You finally understand that the world isn't a passive stage for life to unfold upon. It is an active participant, a living, breathing, dreaming entity, and its dream is turning into a nightmare. On the 3rd day, the lock scrapes open. Kale stands there, silhouetted against the dim light of a swaying lantern. He shoves a hunk of bread and a fresh water skin at you. She's beginning the preparations, he says, his voice clipped. We'll be at the maw by nightfall. The compass is on the captain's table in the main cabin. She never lets it out of her sight. What are you going to do? You ask. He shakes his head, a gesture of profound uncertainty. I got you on the ship. The rest is up to you to prove. I'll create a distraction when the time is right. He pauses. For Alara, he adds, the name a heavy weight between you. She was a scientist. She deserved the truth. He closes the door, and you are alone again. As dusk falls, the ship's motion changes. The smooth roll of the waves gives way to a violent, circular pull. You can hear the water churning, roaring. You are in the whirlpool of the abyssal maw. Suddenly, a great commotion erupts on the deck above. Shouts, the clang of metal on metal. Kale's distraction. This is your moment. You burst out of the locker and race through the ship's corridors. The vessel is pitching wildly. You are thrown against bulkheads, but you keep moving. You reach the main cabin. The door is unlocked. Inside, the room is a shrine. Charts are pinned to the walls, but they are not nautical charts. They are diagrams of Titan locations, of ley lines, of celestial alignments. And on the great oak table in the center of the room, resting on a velvet cloth, is the starfall compass. It is alive. The needle of light is a furious, spinning vortex, throwing beams of light across the cabin. It's not pointing at the sky anymore, it's pointing straight down into the heart of the maw. Dorothy Oker is standing before it, her back to you, her hands outstretched as if to calm the frantic artifact. Her voice is a low, intense chant, a litany of appeasement. Sleep, you restless mountains. Be still, you troubled earth. Let silence be your blanket. It won't work, Dorothy, you say, your voice cutting through her prayer. She spins around, and there is no surprise on her face, only a weary, terrible resolve. The rust-colored scars on her face seem to deepen in the strobing light of the compass. The heretic, she says, her voice cold as the abyss. Kale has chosen his damnation, and you have come to witness the salvation you tried to prevent. This isn't salvation, it's a lobotomy, you plead, taking a step closer. There is a dissonance, an infection. You're about to kill the world's immune system and let the disease win. Lies born of arrogance, she snarls. You cartographers, you scholars, you scratch at the skin of the world and think you understand its heart. You believe knowledge is power, but it is a poison. It is your probing and your mapping that has agitated the dreamer, that has caused this fever. The only cure is to let it rest, to forget. The floor shudders violently. A high-pitched, harmonic whine begins to emanate from the compass, a sound that grates on the very structure of your bones. Through the cabin's stern windows, you can see the sky. It is no longer dark. It is filled with a swirling aurora of impossible colors, a celestial conjunction. The veil is thinning. You're too late, Dorothy says, a triumphant, desperate gleam in her eyes. The conjunction is here. The ritual begins now. She places her hands on the compass. The whining intensifies, and the light from the needle coalesces into a single, brilliant beam, shooting down through the floor of the ship into the churning water. You can feel it. A great, collective sigh passes through the world. A wave of profound lethargy washes over you. The Titans are being lulled, but you feel something else too. Deep beneath the ship, at the heart of the maw, something is awakening. Something that is not a Titan. the dissonance, the infection. Freed from the pressure of the world's immune response, it is stirring. The lodestone in your pocket begins to burn, its heat searing through the fabric of your trousers. It's screaming a silent warning. You lunge for the table, for the compass. Dorothy meets you, her body wiry and strong. She shoves you back, her face a mask of zealotry. You will not undo this. I will not let you wake them again. My village was swallowed by the earth. She screams, her voice cracking with a pain so deep it's almost holy. I was a child. I watched my home, my family, sink into a chasm opened by a stirring titan. My faith died that day. This is my atonement, to ensure no one ever feels that helplessness again, to give the world the peace I can never have. And in that moment, you see her, not as an antagonist, not as a zealot, but as a traumatized soul trying desperately to heal a wound so vast it encompasses the entire world. She is trying to save everyone. Her methods are just born of her pain. I am sorry, you say, and you mean it. I am so sorry for your pain. But you are trying to muffle a scream when you should be looking for the knife causing it. The ship groans, the timbers splintering. The harmonic whine from the compass suddenly drops in pitch, becoming a discordant, guttural thrum. The beautiful aurora in the sky flickers, corrupted by veins of blackness. The ritual is going wrong. The sedative is failing. Dorothy's eyes widen in horror. What is happening? The infection, you say, grabbing the lodestone from your pocket. You slam it down on the table next to the starfall compass. You've put the guards to sleep, and now the prisoner is breaking down the door. The two artifacts react. The lodestone's internal map flares to life, a three-dimensional projection of the seabed beneath you, a swirling vortex of energy. The starfall compass's light needle breaks free from its downward beam and latches onto the projection, illuminating a single, dark point at its very center. A void, a place where the world's energy is being devoured. The truth is laid bare on the table between you. A map of the disease. Dorothy stares at it, her face crumbling as her certainty evaporates, replaced by a dawning, catastrophic understanding. She sees it, the thing her ritual was empowering. What is it? She whispers. I don't know, you answer truthfully. A thought that doesn't belong, a glitch in the system, but it's the real enemy, and we have to fight it together. The ship lurches, its back broken. Water pours into the cabin. The end is here, but it's not the end Dorothy foresaw. How, she asks, her voice desperate, looking at you, the heretic, for guidance. You look at the two artifacts, the map of the earth and the map of the heavens, finally working in concert. The compass doesn't just point, you realize, the intuition striking you like lightning. It can project. And the lodestone doesn't just map, it resonates. We can't lull the dreamer. We have to wake it up. We have to show it the infection so it can fight back. It is the ultimate risk. A conscious, fully awake sea titan would be a force of unimaginable power. It could erase all of civilization in a single, conscious thought. But it's the only chance you have. You grab the compass. Dorothy, after a heartbeat of hesitation that mirrors your own past flaw, grabs the lodestone. The floor gives way, and you are plunged into the cold, churning chaos of the abyssal maw. You cling to a piece of wreckage, Dorothy beside you, The whirlpool is pulling you down. We have to focus its mind. You shout over the roar of the water. Use your faith, Dorothy, not as a blanket, but as a beacon. Show it where the pain is. You hold the starfall compass high. She holds the lodestone. You pour all of your knowledge, your charts, your understanding of the world's structure into the artifact. She pours all of her will, her pain, her desperate, reforged faith into hers. The two artifacts flare, their lights merging, punching a hole through the storm and the water. They project the map of the dissonance not into the cabin, but into the mind of the dreaming sea itself. You are showing the god its wound, and the god awakens. The sea stops churning. The whirlpool vanishes. An impossible, profound silence falls. And then the water begins to rise, not in a wave, but as a single, colossal entity. The titan of the Obsidian Sea is sitting up. You are on its surface, a tiny fleck of dust on the skin of a god. An eye, vast and deep as the cosmos, opens and looks not at you, but inward at the point of infection you have revealed. A consciousness, ancient and powerful beyond human comprehension, floods your mind. It is not hostile. It is grateful. It focuses its immense will on the dissonance, the dark void you and Dorothy pinpointed. And it pushes. The world screams. A psychic shockwave emanates from the maw, a pure, clean note of anti-energy that cancels out the infection. The black veins in the sky vanish. The sickening thrum in the earth ceases. The fever has broken. The great consciousness of the sea recedes, its task done. The water gently lowers you, the titan lying back down to a deeper, healthier slumber. The violent chaos is replaced by a profound, peaceful calm. You float in the still, silent water of the maw, the wreckage of the unmoored scattered around you. Dorothy is a few feet away, her face turned up to the clearing sky, tears streaming down her scarred cheeks. Her atonement is complete, not in the way she intended, but in a way that truly saved the world. The starfall compass in your hand gives a final, gentle pulse, its needle now calm, pointing towards a newly risen star. The lodestone is just a smooth, black stone again, its duty done. You are floating at the center of a new world, a world that is no longer dying. The titans across the globe will settle into a peaceful, dreamless sleep, their role as antibodies no longer needed. The Chrono-Mists will recede, time's wounds beginning to heal. Kale and the surviving crew, watching from a lifeboat on the horizon, have witnessed a miracle that will reshape their understanding of reality. You look at Dorothy. She meets your gaze, and there's no hatred in her eyes, only a shared, bone-deep exhaustion and a nascent, fragile hope. "What now, cartographer?" she asks. You look out at the calm expanse of the Obsidian Sea, a sea you now understand not as a body of water, but as a living partner in the world's existence. Your quest is over, but a new one begins. Now, you say, a genuine smile touching your lips for the first time in years. We begin to draw a new map, a true one. The long night is over. The hope, like the dawn now breaking on the horizon, is real and earned. The world has been given a respite, and you, the Obsidian Cartographer, are finally ready to chart it.